Today's discussion is focusing on a topic that's often misunderstood: therapy. There is this common idea that you should only go to therapy when you're at your lowest or something traumatic has happened. But that's not the only reason people should go. Today we're going to talk about why therapy can actually be a space for reflection, healing, and even building a better version of yourself. Today I'm honored to have Hisham Nsier, who will be sharing insight on why therapy isn't just for crisis. To start off, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and your journey?
Yeah, thank you for having me on. I am a clinical psychology PhD student here in Chicago. And my journey to psychology was I kind of went in a few different ways. I used to be a pre-med student. I was on my path to become a medical doctor. And when I was shadowing different doctors, I realized that I was more interested in the stories people had to share and their experience more so than their medical condition. And so I switched paths to psychology during college, and I'm really grateful that I did. I think studying psychology is a great, incredible way to learn more about myself, to learn more about the world, and helps me connect with people in a better way.
Thank you for sharing about yourself. Now let's start talking about the way therapy is usually seen. Why do you think so many people believe that therapy is only for crisis situations?
That's a really good question. I think it has to do with a couple things. The first thing is the way that the media portrays therapy. I think in a lot of TV shows and movies and just in popular culture, therapy is always seen as something where someone is in a moment of crisis or there's something wrong with them or they're quote unquote crazy. And I think the other piece has to do with the fact that therapy in the West is really medicalized. And by that, I mean um, a lot of clinicians, doctors, they view mental health struggles as something wrong, something that needs to be cured. And I think that this sets up the expectation that we have to be sick. We have to be, again, crazy in order to benefit from therapy. And I think that does a disservice because while there are a lot of experiences that do require medical intervention, a lot of what we experience in our mental health struggles is the normal part of being human, and it shouldn't always be seen as something wrong.
In your experience, how can therapy help someone grow even if they're not in a crisis or facing a mental health illness?
Beauties about therapy is it's a space where we get to talk to someone who only knows us in that context. You know, the thing that makes therapy different from a friendship or a romantic relationship or a family relationship is that we are building a relationship with someone who doesn't know us in those other contexts. And while that can be kind of scary on one hand, on the other end of things, it keeps us open to a perspective that we may never have thought is possible, or a perspective that people who are close to us wouldn't feel comfortable sharing. And I think on that similar note, a lot of challenges that we have as humans isn't necessarily about crisis, it's about confusion. I don't know what I'm going to do when I grow up. I don't know if I should leave this career or if I should leave this relationship. And those aren't necessarily moments of crisis, but through therapy, we can get new perspectives, and the therapist can push us to think about ourselves in a way we haven't thought of before. And I think that can happen whether or not someone's feeling sick or if they just need that extra little push.
Um, Now that brings us to something a lot of people wonder about. How do you know when therapy might be helpful, and what are some signs that someone could benefit from even if they feel like they're doing fine on the outside?
It's a really good question. And I think the the answer to that question is, the question asks like I might be feeling fine on the outside, but how do I know? I think we have this internal sensor that will tell us when we might need some help. If people are experiencing, they're really tired all the time and they just feel like They don't want to get up and do anything. They might seem fine on the outside, but something might feel wrong on the inside. I think the general answer to that question is if there's ever feels like there's the person wants to make a change in their life and they don't know where to start, I think that's a good sign to maybe consider therapy. It's not always about I need to have I need to know exactly what the problem is. I need to know exactly what my solution is going to look like. It's not always that simple. I think if there's just a question of I think something needs to change, but I don't know how, that's often a really good first step.
The culture side of this, especially in Arab communities, how do culture expectations like staying strong, keeping things private, or avoiding judgment affects the way people approach therapy?
Really good question. I think it really does influence the way that people view therapy. I mean, I've my parents are Arab. My parents are from the Middle East, but I was born here in America, and so I can say that like a lot of mental health practitioners in America aren't Arab, and so there can be a fear and hesitation of why am I going to go to this person who doesn't understand my culture? They don't understand my experiences. Can I really trust what they have to say? Will they judge me? And I think that those are um, really important questions to ask. Um, and I think the way to approach that is finding someone who does seem trustworthy. I wish that there were more Arab practitioners than there are, but even people who come from different cultural backgrounds, they might be able to relay on certain experiences. And I think um, a question that I would pose to that person who might be afraid of being vulnerable or a fear of judgment, my question would be what's more important? Is it more important to them to have this external image of strength and keeping everything inside? Or is it more important to get better and feel better? And I think if the person is open to taking a risk and being vulnerable, um, I think they would be surprised by how much they might enjoy therapy.
If someone is thinking about going to therapy but feels unsure or nervous, what would you tell them?
Tell them that the worst thing that can happen is they don't like the therapist and they don't go back. There really is nothing to lose from trying therapy. It's also kind of a trial and error thing. I would tell the person, don't don't think that the first experience of trying to do therapy is going to dictate what all of therapy is going to look like. It takes a while to find a person that you really click with, trust, and I would just encourage them to take a leap of faith. And again, the worst thing that happens is they don't like it. There really is nothing to lose.
Thank you for being here with us today and sharing your insight on this topic. Before we end, is there any final quote or message you'd like to share with the audience?
There's a quote from an old psychologist from the 1900s who said that we don't see the light by only focusing on the light, but by looking at the shadow and choosing to see the light in it. And I think there's a lot of power in that. We won't feel better and be better if we only focus on the positive. We have to look at what's negative in our life and make a choice to be better.